Hello, welcome to my channel, Annie Page's Pages, with me, Annie Page, where I talk about books. Over the last few years, we have seen witches absolutely dominate the book community. Every single genre seems to have a load of books about witches in them. Mystery, romance, fantasy, like you name it. But now it seems that witches have had their day and a new occult is becoming trendy again, and that is vampires. I have been looking for new releases and what books are coming up in the next year as I've been looking for content to film, and I have seen so many vampire books releasing either the back end of 2024 or throughout 2025. Now, I am a massive lover of witchy books. That is my key buzzword when looking for a book. If it is about witches, I will most likely read it. I am obsessed. So I have absolutely loved this reign of terror that witches has had over the book community. But I also have a soft spot for vampires. I was that 13-year-old girl who used to draw little fangs on her neck for school and used to put like red eyeliner on to make myself look undead and tormented. So I, for one, am thrilled that vampires are having a comeback in the world of literature. So that brings me to this video. I thought it would be a really good idea to have a look at some of these vampire books that have either recently been released or are being released in the upcoming year. Have a look at them, talk through them with you, and maybe together we can get some ideas of what vampire books to pick up in the near future. I will also timestamp all of the books below. So if I'm talking about a book that isn't for you or it's not within your genre, you can just skip on to the next book. So the first book is Blood Moon by Brittany S. Lewis, and this comes out in August 2025. So legend says that werewolves came to Mira's small town to protect the townsfolk from the vampires that lived there. But Mira doesn't believe in fairy tales, she doesn't believe in legends, and she definitely hasn't believed in that kind of thing since her mum left when she was 13 years old. And now Mira is about to begin her first year of college. She wants a normal life. This is her shot at normality. She wants a normal college experience. But a mysterious boy, Julian, with golden eyes and a cold stare, threatens to derail Mira's plans. And when the blood moon rises, Mira finds herself in the middle of a centuries-old battle, with Julian on one side of that battle. She learns that her family is embroiled in this centuries-old battle and her world is changed forever. This book gives me Twilight vibes, but I'm really excited to find out more and be back in that sort of vibe. And it has werewolves, so yeah, absolute Twilight vibes. Very excited for this one. The next book is Immortal Dark by Tigist Germer, and this was released in September of 2024. This is a dark academia fantasy, but it obviously features vampires and has a university setting. So in this world, there is a small society of vampires, and they can only feed off a specific bloodline of humans. And to ensure the successful peace and coexistence between vampires and humans, the children of these bloodlines must attend an elite university and study, and then choose the vampire that will be their companion. We follow Kaiden Adonai, whose sister June has recently gone missing, and she is highly suspicious of the vampire that is bound to her bloodline, Susenyos. I'm not sure. I will have to look at that. There is actually a TikTok from this author where she talks about her name pronunciation and all of the characters, but when I went to look at it, I had no signal and it wasn't working, so I didn't actually look at that. So I might be getting these wrong, but there is a video that tells you the correct pronunciations. So I will go and look at that after I have filmed this video, and then there is no excuse in further videos to get this wrong. So Kaiden has to attend this university, and at the same time she also has to navigate with Susenyos, who, like I said, she suspects of taking, kidnapping, or potentially killing her sister, and her intentions are to finish university and kill Susenyos. But then a murder occurs, and this murder mirrors the circumstances in which June went missing, and this leads Kaiden to infiltrate the underworld of vampires. And here she discovers a centuries-old threat, and she fears that June might be in the centre of it. Like I said, this book has already been released. I am waiting for it to go on sale, and hopefully I will pick it up and give it a read soon. Let me know if you've already read it, what your rating was, and if you would recommend it. It does sound like a really good read. Next is Suckers by Leisha Shea, and this is being released, is it August? No, September 2025. This doesn't actually have a cover yet, and I'm really intrigued to see what the cover is. So we are following Sade, who is currently house sitting in Whitby. Love the Whitby setting. And she meets Ethan, who is currently working on rebuilding the castle. Also, when I read the synopsis, I was thinking, like, what castle? Do they mean the Abbey? Or is there a Whitby castle that I've never heard of? Because when I googled it, I just found a spa called Whitby Castle. So I'm unsure if they mean the spa, or if there's a castle I've never heard of, or if they actually mean the Abbey. There is an immediate attraction between Sade and Ethan, but Sade is actually hiding a secret. She is a Succoyant, which is a type of Caribbean vampire that can turn into a fireball. She joins a support group for vampires, and here she meets Alok, who is a Sri Lankan blood demon, and his adoptive father is completely unaware of his son's true nature and is actually leading a group of vampire hunters who are trying to avenge the mysterious deaths that have been happening recently. Sade finds herself in an impossible love triangle and has to navigate her own secrets and the secrets of those around her, and is left facing an impossible decision. This synopsis is quite vague, like what are the secrets of the others, what is the impossible decision, but I really want to get my hands on this book. Next up is Where Shadows Meet by Patrice Caldwell, and this comes out in April 2025. This is a sapphic romantasy set in the aftermath of a war between vampires, humans, and gods. Long ago, Favre sacrificed her wings for love, and Thana, the goddess that she gave up her wings for, sacrificed that love for power, but every sacrifice has a cost. Favre never recovered from the loss of her wings and also the betrayal of Thana, so she has been biding her time, waiting to resurrect Thana. And then 1,000 years later, we follow Layla, the crown princess of the Malakora, which is a race that survives on human blood. And she must travel to the island of the dead after her best friend is captured and taken. Layla, alongside Naja, who is a very powerful seer, must travel down a dangerous path intent on saving her best friend. The closer she gets to her friend, the closer she gets to awakening an ancient evil and unleashing destruction upon the whole life that she knows. The next book is A Marriage of Undead Inconvenience, and I have not actually made a note of who wrote this, but I am putting the book on the screen so you will see the author here. And this was released in August of 2024. This cover is absolutely stunning. This is pitched as a cozy, spooky, historical fantasy rom-com. So we follow Margaret Dunhaven, who has been forced to marry the vampire lord in order to fulfill a family obligation, and she is not happy about it. But she also discovers that her new husband is equally as unhappy about this situation, as he too has been forced into this marriage and it's not something that he wanted. So they work together to reclaim her inheritance, break his curse, and find their freedom. But they may just fall in love along the way. It sounds like it's going to be really fun, have a little bit of humour mixed in with it, and just be really cozy and wonderful. I'm looking forward to picking this one up. Next is A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montoya, and this comes out January 2025, so there isn't long to wait before this is released. This is a romantic fantasy where a fledgling vampire and a vampire huntress must work together to rid the world of monsters. And this has been pitched as Buffy meets Zorro meets Pride and Prejudice, and I am so intrigued by that combination. So we follow Carolina, who comes from a family of vampire hunters, but because she is a woman, she is told that her only value is for marriage, and she wants to disprove this. She wants to prove her worth. So she decides to go out and capture and kill a vampire all on her own. But then she runs into Lalo and everything changes. Lalo is a vampire and he did not ask to be turned, but now his whole world has been turned upside down. He has been forced to flee the life that he knows, and he decides to try and track down the place that the first vampire was created in order to find answers about his new existence. But instead he finds a beautiful young woman who is hell-bent on killing him. The two realise they actually have a common enemy and they must work together to bring down this common enemy. The synopsis says nothing about who this common enemy might be. Is it the vampires? Is it the vampire hunters? Is it someone else entirely? I'm really intrigued to find out. I think this is actually going to be really fun. Next is The Gathering by CJ Tudor, and this came out in September 2025. This is a crime thriller with a vampiric twist. So in this book, a boy is found with his throat cut and the blood drained from his body, but the people living in the town are not surprised, as they say there is a colony of vampires living in the mountains. A detective who is not from this area, which I believe is called Dead Heart, she comes in to investigate, and she doesn't think everything quite adds up. She thinks the townsfolk are lying and there are secrets lying in this town. As the snow falls and the bodies pile up, Barbara is running out of time. But what is she actually looking for? A cold-blooded murderer or a bloodthirsty monster? I said I would never pick up another I said I would never pick up another CJ Tudor book because the previous ones that I have read are not for me, and it seems unfair to pick up books by an author that I haven't previously liked because their work just doesn't work for me. We are not supposed to be, so it does kind of seem unfair to leave negative reviews for a book that I probably won't like. But this one actually really intrigues me, and I think that this might be the CJ Tudor book for me. This might break the curse that is currently placed upon me with CJ Tudor books. Next is Lightfall by Ed Crocker, and this also comes out in January 2025, so again, not long to wait for this one. This is the first in a trilogy, and this is an epic fantasy that features vampires, werewolves, and sorcerers. In this world, for centuries, vampires roamed free in the land, but then one day, out of nowhere, the Greys came and wiped out half of the vampire population. So the vampires had to flee to the last vampire city that I think was called Lightfall? First Light, that was the name of the city, First Light. And in First Light, the rules are simple. If you are poor, you get the weaker blood, and if you are higher up the food chain in the hierarchy, then you get the good blood. And the only other rule is you cannot ever leave the city. So we follow palace maid Sam, who is sick and tired of these rules. She is at the bottom of the pecking order, and she is forced to clean up after the lords who enforce these rules. But then the ruler of the city's son is murdered, and Sam finds a clue, and she uses this to her advantage and blackmails her way up the food chain. And then she meets a group called the Leeches, which is a group of rebel maids. And there she meets a sorcerer whose magic is significantly lacking, a deadly werewolf assassin, and a countess who knows just about every secret in the city. The murder investigation soon turns into a conspiracy theory, and Sam must unravel the truth before she becomes the next victim. Next is Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright, and this came out in August 2024. In this book, we follow Shan Leclerc, who is the daughter of a bloodthirsty... No, that's not what I was supposed to say. In this novel, we follow Shan Leclerc, who is the daughter of a disgraced blood worker. She has spent her life perfecting her blood magic, gathering a network of spies, and gathering every scrap of power that she possibly can. And then, in order to protect her brother, she assassinates her father. Crazy, right? And then she takes her place at the head of the family and starts to plot her revenge. Revenge on who? I really need to know. We also follow Samuel, who is a bastard with a terrible gift. He has tried his whole life to avoid the secretive, bloodthirsty world of vampires. But when he discovers a body left behind by a magical serial killer, he is drawn into the court of the Vampire King. The Vampire King tasked the pair, Shan and Sam, to discover the identity of the serial killer, alongside a mysterious blood worker named Isaac. But Shan starts to lure Sam into her plan of revenge, and Sam must decide whether the good of the nation is worth the price of his soul. This sounds, again, like quite high fantasy, quite high stakes. I'm not sure if that is going to be for me because it's not a subgenre of fantasy that I usually go for, but I really do want to give this one a try. And then finally, we have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, and this is coming out in June 2025. The synopsis for this was quite brief. It's very vague, and I wasn't entirely sure if this was like hinting that there were vampires in this or not. So I went onto V.E. Schwab's Instagram to have a look to see if she'd written anything about this book, and she describes this as a toxic lesbian vampire novel. I am sold. So I will just plain read you the synopsis because it is absolutely perfect the way that it is. Santo Domingo de la Calzada, 1532. London, 1837. Boston, 2019. 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangling like roots. One grows high, one grows deep, and one grows wild. And all of them grow teeth. That sounds amazing. I love V. Schwab. I have enjoyed all of the books that I have read from her so far, so I'm really, really interested to get my hands on this one too. It sounds wonderful. So those are the 10 vampire books that I am sharing with you today. I think I might make another one of these videos because there are so many vampire books coming out in 2025. So as I find them, I will add them to a little document, and when I have enough, I might make a part 2 of this video to share with you the new trend that is emerging in fiction at the moment. And like I said, I am so excited for the resurgence of vampires. They deserve it. Vampires are wonderful. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please leave any vampire book recommendations down below. If there were any that are coming out that you're really hyped about that I missed from this list, please let me know. And also tell me which one on this list you are the most excited to read. Mine probably has to be A Cruel Thirst, or maybe Blood Moon. So that is all from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in another video. Goodbye.